My beloved child. Listen carefully and do not let your mind wander even for a second, because what you are about to hear is not a coincidence, not a rumor, and not a passing thought. There is a presence moving around your life right now, quietly, confidently, and with a smile that looks harmless from a distance. She is admired wherever she goes, praised for her charm, and constantly compared to others in ways that make people uncomfortable but silent. And yes, she is being compared to you. Not because you are weak, but because you are powerful enough to be seen as an obstacle. This is urgent because decisions are already being discussed without your name in the room. This is urgent because relocation does not always mean moving homes. Sometimes it means being slowly pushed out of your own position, your emotional space, your importance, and your influence. Stay with me, because every word from here will reveal something that explains why this moment cannot be ignored. You may have felt it already, that strange shift in energy when you walk into familiar places and something feels slightly off. Conversations pause for a second longer than usual. Smiles appear, but they do not fully reach the eyes. Plans are changed last minute, and reasons sound reasonable but feel empty. This is how displacement begins, not with noise, but with silence. She does not announce herself as a threat, because she does not need to. Her beauty is not only in appearance, but in how easily people listen to her, how quickly trust flows toward her, and how naturally attention bends in her direction. And here is the shocking truth. It is not her beauty alone that matters. It is the comparison that others are silently making between her and you. And comparisons, once planted, grow roots that can uproot everything if left unchecked. There is something you must understand right now. This situation was not created overnight. It has been forming slowly, through small comments, subtle praise, and carefully chosen moments where she shines just a little brighter in front of the right people. While you were focusing on your responsibilities, your growth, and your inner world, someone else was focusing on positioning. This is not about jealousy. This is about strategy. And the once-in-a-lifetime revelation here is this. You were never meant to compete, but you were placed into a competition without being told the rules. That is why it feels confusing. That is why your instincts are alert, but your mind keeps asking for proof. Proof is coming, but first you must see the pattern. Notice how your role has recently been questioned in subtle ways. Not openly challenged, but gently reviewed, as if people are reassessing something they once considered permanent. Notice how suggestions are framed as help, yet somehow remove decision-making from your hands. This is how relocation begins at an emotional and social level. You are not being attacked. You are being rearranged. And the reason this matters so deeply is because once the rearrangement is complete, resistance becomes difficult. People will say it happened naturally. They will say it was for the best. They will say you adapted. But adaptation is not always growth. Sometimes it is survival disguised as acceptance. This is the moment where awareness becomes your greatest strength. Now stay with me, because the most important truth has not yet been spoken. The reason she is able to do this is not because she is more deserving. It is because you have been underestimated in your silence. You carry depth that does not announce itself. You hold value that does not beg for validation. And that is exactly why this phase exists. Life often tests the strongest ones not by breaking them, but by seeing if they notice when something precious is being quietly taken away. This is urgent because once you see it clearly, everything changes. The story does not end here. It is only beginning. There is a moment, often unnoticed, when the ground beneath your life subtly shifts, and this is that moment. Everything that once felt stable now carries a faint sense of uncertainty, not because you have done something wrong, but because someone else has begun to occupy the narrative that once naturally belonged to you. This is how displacement truly works, not through confrontation, but through gradual redirection. People begin to look at her when decisions are forming. People begin to ask her opinion even when the matter concerns you. And the most unsettling part is how normal it all appears on the surface. This is urgent because normalcy is the perfect disguise for change that is not in your favor. If you are still watching, it means your intuition has already sensed that something important is unfolding, something that demands awareness before it becomes irreversible. You must understand one powerful truth now, and it may surprise you. The admiration surrounding her is not accidental, and it is not purely organic. Attention follows intention, and intention has been quietly working behind the scenes. While you were being authentic, consistent, and sincere, someone else was being visible, adaptable, and strategically appealing. This does not make her superior. It makes her deliberate. And here is where the emotional weight deepens. People often confuse brightness with depth, charm with substance, and presence with permanence. The shocking revelation is that many will support what feels exciting in the moment, even if it quietly displaces what has been reliable for years. This is why you feel a strange pull inside, a mix of confusion and alertness. Your inner self recognizes that value is being measured differently now, and the scale has shifted without your consent. Notice how your silence has been interpreted as acceptance. Notice how your patience has been mistaken for flexibility. This is where the danger lies, not in her actions, but in the assumptions others are making about you. When people believe you will adjust no matter what, they feel free to move you without asking. This is relocation at its core, not a physical move, but a repositioning of your importance. And here is the once-in-a-lifetime realization. The moment you become predictable in your tolerance, others begin to predict your absence from the center. This is not a punishment. It is a test. A test of whether you recognize your own worth loudly enough to be acknowledged without raising your voice. There is also something deeply emotional happening beneath the surface, something few talk about but many feel. Comparison creates insecurity in others, and insecurity seeks resolution. When two strong presences exist, people often choose the one that feels easier, lighter, and less challenging. You, with your depth and intensity, remind them of responsibility, truth, and consistency. She reminds them of novelty, ease, and admiration. This does not mean you lose. It means the environment is being shaped toward comfort rather than substance. This is why your heart feels heavy at unexpected moments. It is not fear. It is recognition. Recognition that something meaningful is being tested, and that passivity will not protect it. Stay with me, because the most powerful part of this revelation is just ahead. You are not being removed because you lack something. You are being shifted because you possess something rare. Influence that does not beg. Strength that does not shout. Presence that does not perform. And life, in its strange way, often creates pressure around such people to see if they will finally step into full awareness of their position. This is urgent because awareness changes posture, energy, and outcome. Once you see the movement clearly, you no longer stand where others place you. You stand where you choose. And this story is still unfolding, with a turning point closer than you think. A quiet realization arrives before any visible change, and this is where you are standing now. The air around you feels heavier, not because of fear, but because truth has begun to press against your awareness. People who once sought your presence now seem distracted, as if their attention has been gently redirected elsewhere. This is not imagination. This is alignment shifting. And here is what makes it critical. Once alignment changes, outcomes follow without announcement. You are witnessing the early stage of a decision that others believe you will simply accept. That belief is their greatest misunderstanding. There is something rarely spoken about, yet deeply powerful. When someone new enters a space with confidence and admiration, others project their own hopes onto that person. They see possibilities, shortcuts, and comfort. They do not see the cost. You, however, represent accountability, history, and truth earned over time. And this contrast creates an emotional tension in those around you. The shocking realization is this. Many people choose what feels lighter today, even if it weakens tomorrow. This is why her presence feels amplified and yours feels questioned, even though nothing about your value has diminished. Pay attention now to how narratives are being rewritten. Past contributions are summarized quickly. Efforts that took years are reduced to brief acknowledgments. Meanwhile, new impressions are described in detail, with excitement and optimism. This is not coincidence. This is preparation. Preparation for justification. Once people justify change in their minds, action feels easy. And here is the emotional truth that hits hardest. You are being expected to understand, to be mature, to be flexible, while others are free to celebrate the shift. This is relocation disguised as progress, and it only works if you remain silent within yourself. What they do not realize is that your awareness has already altered the balance. The moment you see the pattern, you reclaim power without confrontation. Your presence begins to feel different. Grounded. Unmoved. And this unsettles those who assumed you would quietly step aside. Strength does not always announce itself through words. Sometimes it enters the room as certainty. The once-in-a-lifetime insight here is this. When you stop reacting and start observing, you rise above the narrative being built around you. You become unplaceable. Hold this understanding closely, because the next phase depends on it. This is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about remembering who you are before others decided where you fit. The urgency exists because timing matters. Awareness delayed becomes regret. Awareness embraced becomes direction. And what comes next will reveal who truly stands with you, and who was only standing near you. The shift is approaching its peak, and your response will define the outcome. There comes a point when silence becomes louder than words, and this is that point. The atmosphere around you has changed enough that even small moments now carry meaning. A pause before someone answers you. A glance exchanged when your name is mentioned. These are signals, not accidents. This is the stage where relocation is no longer an idea but an expectation. Others are slowly adjusting to a future where your position feels movable. And the urgency lies here. Once expectations settle, reversing them requires far more energy than preventing them in the first place. Understand this carefully. People are not acting out of malice. They are acting out of comfort. Comfort with what feels easy, attractive, and less demanding emotionally. You challenge people simply by being consistent, aware, and grounded. She, on the other hand, offers an experience that feels lighter, more exciting, and less reflective. This creates a silent vote in rooms you are not present in. The shocking truth is that most decisions are made emotionally first, then justified logically later. By the time explanations reach you, the emotional choice has already been made. Yet here is what shifts everything. Your energy is no longer aligned with uncertainty. The moment you stopped questioning your worth, the entire dynamic changed. People sense when someone is rooted. They sense when someone cannot be quietly repositioned anymore. This does not require confrontation. It requires presence. Presence that does not seek approval. Presence that does not rush to explain itself. This is where influence quietly returns to its rightful place. Those who thought you would adjust now feel unsure, because grounded people do not move easily. There is also an emotional reckoning happening within you, and it matters deeply. You are recognizing that being agreeable has costs, and being silent has consequences. This realization does not harden you. It clarifies you. You begin to see where you gave more than was required, where you assumed understanding would be mutual, and where you trusted stability too easily. This is not regret. This is growth arriving at the exact moment it is needed. The once-in-a-lifetime shift is that you are no longer available for quiet displacement. Stay with this awareness, because the story is approaching its turning edge. What others planned to complete smoothly is now meeting resistance, not from conflict, but from clarity. And clarity disrupts expectations more than anger ever could. The urgency remains because timing is everything. What you do next, even in stillness, will echo through every decision being formed around you. The outcome is closer than it appears, and the balance is already changing. There is a silent tension now, one that did not exist before you became fully aware. The same people who once moved freely around you now measure their words. Not because you have spoken differently, but because your presence has shifted. This is the phase where uncertainty transfers from you to them. They begin to sense that the outcome they assumed is no longer guaranteed. And this is urgent, because moments like this decide whether influence is reclaimed or permanently reassigned. Nothing outward has changed, yet everything underneath is moving. What few understand is that real authority is felt before it is acknowledged. When you stopped shrinking your reactions and stopped offering comfort in situations that required respect, the balance adjusted. She may still receive admiration, but admiration alone does not sustain structure. It creates excitement, not stability. People are beginning to notice small gaps, moments where charm does not translate into depth, where attention does not equal understanding. This realization does not happen loudly. It happens in pauses, in reconsiderations, in delayed decisions. And once that doubt appears, it grows quietly but steadily. Inside, something equally powerful is unfolding. You are no longer seeking reassurance from the same sources. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. This internal shift is what changes everything. When a person stops needing validation, they become immovable. The once-in-a-lifetime truth here is this. Relocation only succeeds when the person being moved believes they have no alternative. You have discovered your alternative within yourself. And that discovery makes you unrelocatable. People now feel the contrast more clearly. One presence offers brightness that fades when responsibility arrives. The other offers depth that holds when pressure increases. Even those who favored ease begin to feel the weight of their choice. This is not punishment. It is reality reasserting itself. And reality always favors what lasts. The emotional pull intensifies here, because you sense that the story is bending back toward truth. Not dramatically, not publicly, but decisively. Remain steady, because the final shift is approaching. This is the stage where intentions are revealed without words. Where actions speak before explanations are formed. The urgency continues because timing still matters, but fear no longer leads. Awareness does. And awareness, once rooted, cannot be displaced. What comes next will not require effort from you. It will require alignment. And alignment is already happening. A subtle stillness settles in before every decisive change, and this stillness is not empty. It is observant. You may notice that conversations around you have become careful, almost measured. People are no longer as confident in the direction they assumed earlier. This hesitation did not come from debate or confrontation. It came from sensing that you are no longer available for quiet adjustment. This is urgent because when momentum slows, outcomes become flexible again. The narrative that once moved without resistance is now pausing, and pauses create space for truth to re-enter. Something important is happening behind the scenes. Those who once leaned toward novelty are beginning to calculate stability. They are realizing that admiration fades quickly when responsibility demands consistency. This is not a dramatic reversal. It is a recalibration. And recalibrations favor those who are rooted rather than those who are simply visible. The shocking realization emerging now is this. What was praised loudly is being questioned quietly. And what was taken for granted is being revalued silently. This shift is subtle, but it is powerful enough to change final decisions. Within you, a deeper calm has taken hold. You are no longer watching for signs with anxiety. You are observing outcomes with clarity. This inner steadiness is what others feel, even if they cannot explain it. When someone stands fully in their worth, they alter the emotional environment around them. This is why attempts to reposition you now feel awkward and incomplete. The structure no longer supports the movement. And once a structure weakens, relocation becomes impossible without exposure. There is also a quiet respect returning, not through praise, but through deference. People listen more carefully. They seek your reaction, even if they do not ask directly. This is not because you demanded space. It is because space naturally forms around certainty. The once-in-a-lifetime insight here is that influence returns fastest when it is not chased. It returns when it is remembered. And you have remembered who you are without needing confirmation. Hold this moment with awareness, because it precedes resolution. The urgency now is not about fear of loss, but about readiness for outcome. What unfolds next will clarify everything that was uncertain. Alignments will reveal themselves. Choices will surface. And when they do, you will not need to move to protect your place. Your place will already be undeniable. The story is nearing its conclusion, and it is unfolding in your favor. A truth becomes undeniable when actions begin to mirror what was once only felt, and this is that moment. You may notice that decisions are no longer rushed around you. Timelines stretch. Confirmations delay. This is not inefficiency. This is reconsideration. The path that once seemed smooth now requires review, and review means doubt has entered the process. This is urgent because doubt dismantles assumptions faster than opposition ever could. The relocation that felt inevitable is now uncertain, and uncertainty changes everything. People are beginning to recognize the difference between attraction and trust. Attraction draws attention, but trust carries weight. In moments that require judgment, responsibility, and long-term thinking, attention alone falls short. This realization is quietly reshaping priorities. The shocking revelation here is that those who once compared are now distinguishing. They are seeing what endures and what only impresses briefly. This shift does not require announcements. It requires experience. And experience is now speaking louder than appearance. Your composure has become your statement. Without explaining, without defending, you have allowed reality to speak for you.